Hello, everyone. Today I'm going to be discussing a rather profound novel written by American author Tara Westover. Tara's book, Educated, is an autobiographical memoir that details her unconventional upbringing and how she struggled transitioning from her nurtured lifestyle to contemporary society. Um, the only copy of her book I currently have is actually the ebook copy that I got for just a few bucks a couple weeks ago on Kindle, but I believe my copy is still waiting to come in, unfortunately, because of the weather. It has not made it here quite yet, but I do have the ebook copy, and I encourage everyone else to get their own copy as well. Before I begin, I want to say that I believe this book tackles so many different conventions. It's exciting, it's inspiring, it's fun, and it's also daunting. Um, it makes you question a lot of things. It makes you question your own situation, even though Tara's situation is likely far different than our own. It makes you relate to everything she discusses, even if some of the concepts are hard to grasp. I think this book is an excellent piece to be added to a classroom library, and I'm going to go into brief details as to why I think that you should read it. Tara had a rather peculiar upbringing as she was born in the mountains of Idaho, away from civilization. But before you think her mountain lifestyle was tranquil by any means, she lived her entire childhood fighting to survive. Her parents are both survivalists who feared the impending doom of humanity, or as they call it, the Day of Judgment. Um, Tara was constantly pressured by her family to provide and commit to backbreaking work to ensure that they could survive the dastardly elements and threatening wildlife. Her family did not believe in modern medicine. Tara was never really seen by a real doctor throughout her childhood. Her family believed in herbal medicine and home remedies to take care of illnesses and a variety of injuries. Um, they avoided mainstream establishments, so Tara never received a proper education. Throughout her childhood, her only knowledge was survival, and not just from the wild mountains in which they lived. Tara had to learn to survive from her violent brothers and manipulative father. As she emerged into her teenage years, she isolated herself from her family and began to educate herself. Uh, as she has attained materials from mainstream society, textbooks, fiction novels, nonfiction novels, and she worked on developing grammar skills, proper grammar skills, and learned American mathematics, which drove a wedge between her and her family and brought her closer to contemporary society. Her self-taught education made her proficient enough to be admitted into the Brigham Young University in Utah. Um, that is when, at 17 years old, she set foot into her first ever classroom. Her memoir continues to explain her struggles of balancing relationships with her family members and her commitment to mainstream society. She discusses how she became ostracized from her family for choosing to move on and to join mainstream society, and how their manipulation continues to be an ongoing problem for her even today. I chose to discuss this book because I think it's important that we all keep in mind that education is not something to be taken for granted. We can perceive this memoir as a story of someone who was lesser fortunate than us, but I perceive this memoir as someone who persevered and became the person she aspired to be. Tara is a survivor. Her story is not necessarily meant for other survivors, but perhaps it can inspire those who feel trapped or anchored in their current situation. The overall message I received from this memoir is that we should never give up on ourselves, and that we should keep pushing on no matter how hard it gets. I think this book is a valuable text to add to a classroom library. I encourage all of you to take the opportunity and read Tara's memoir. as it may hit closer to home than you may think. So thank you all for listening, and happy reading.